Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with Daily Technical Update. It is the 14th of April. This is an educational video. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So it is only to demonstrate how I read the market and how I use the TA technical analysis to do so. And today, this morning, we will start with Apple. There's been so much talk about how much an iPhone will cost if it's going to be produced in US. So, of course, it has been quite depressed as most of their components are being made in China or India and other countries, and definitely not in the US. So it has bounced quite significantly from below 170, just a spike below, and bounced quite strongly up to just around 200, but it needs to close above 209.68, so I would say 210 just to make sure, for a further bounce up to 275 resistance area. But this is a gap area that could prove to be quite strong, so it will be key to watch the market to say, well, it's slide lower, and if it starts taking out the opening from Friday, which is around 186, then we could see it sliding lower. And RSI divergence, there's no divergence, is indicating that we could see lower levels, and the previous lows here could be challenged, but it's not a given. So let's see. I'm not quite sure that will occur. On the US indices, S&P 500, and I have the weekly chart on the right side here, so you can just see the overall picture. Also bounced quite strongly after last week's turmoil, quite a lot of volatility. Hasn't really closed the gap up to 5,521, 5,522. It needs to close above that level, but look at what's going on here. If we have the 55 moving average coming down and the 200 down here, and sometime this week, possibly Wednesday, 55 is likely to cross over the or below the 200, and if they're both declining at the time, which seems likely, then we have a death cross, and that is not really a positive sign for the trend of the market. If it starts taking out the lows here from Friday, then I think we could see a push lower, and the low here is 5,220. Then we can see it sliding back to at least challenge the 5,000 level here. So keep an eye on that low. Pre-market, we are bouncing a little bit further, and 5,504. It really needs to close above that to push higher towards previous peaks here. But let's see if we can do that. The Nasdaq 100 index closed on a positive tone, but still we are in a bearish trend. No divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see lower levels, but we also have to remember doesn't have to be divergence on the RSI when we're talking about stocks, because underlying they are positive, meaning the bias is positive, meaning because you can either own the stocks or you can't own the stocks. It's only institutional and few people that can actually sell short a stock. So, however, if it takes out the peak here at 19,234, then we could see a push up to around 20,290. Pre-market at the moment, we are trading a little bit higher, and I will say that if we take out the spike up there at 19,232, then we can see a push higher towards 20,000. But also here, 55 and 200 moving average, give it a day or something like that, then the 55 will cross below the 200, and that is not a positive sign. The Dow Jones Index, there's a little bit more. It will take a couple of weeks before it actually crosses below, and the 200 is virtually flat. Resistance at 14,986 and 41,412. Hang Seng Index has bounced further this morning and is now trading around the 38.2 retracement at 21,405, about 2% higher. Gapped a little bit higher, got back above the 100 moving average. We could see further bounce in the coming days, possibly, but if it starts sliding back below 21,000, then I think we'll see a push towards 20,000 again. We can see this massive gap here. That would be key, and I'll adjust that. That would be key to close that. Here we have the future, more or less the same picture really. So it bounced to the 38.2 and just below the 21,600 level. So just around 38.2 retracement. On the European markets, well, it wasn't the best close to the week. It is still quite depressed. Needs to get back above 4,988 to establish a bullish trend, but it will be quite fragile with a potential up to 5,200, 228 area. Pre-market we are up just a tad, but not much. We are quite fragile there, to be honest, and it could be a struggle to get up much higher than that. What we can do, we can adjust some of these levels here, 5,068. If we can get back up that, well, then there's potential up to 5,300, but it will be a struggle. We have the 100 moving average coming down there. The DAX index also, well, bounced a bit more than the Eurostoxx 50, but it closed on a negative note, couldn't get back above 21,253. It needs to take out that peak there on the 10th of April at 21,300. If it can't do that, well, then I think we will slide lower here in the coming weeks, and it could take out the lows there from 19,384. If it does that, well, we can see another pressure on the supports down here. And pre-market, it's just up about 0.5%, so it's not really much. It needs to take out 21,525 to establish a bullish trend. Moving on to the FX market, and your dollar spiked higher, just a few cents below the resistance here at 114.80 and a change. And we can see where it comes from. It comes from this area over here. I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming weeks towards 116.30, 117. We could see that, and maybe even higher, and maybe even up to the 161.8 projection of this correction here at 118 and just below 119. So a bullish trend, no divergence on the RSI indicator, which is pointing to higher levels. There might be a slight divergence on the daily, but it's the jury is still out. If it closes higher today, well, then it is not, and then there's potential higher. On cable, sterling dollar, after a quite big correction here, pushing higher, taking out the 786 retracement. If it takes out I believe it will, but it's not a buy signal. A recommendation to buy, at least. It is a buy signal, 132 and a change. If it takes out that, well, then there's potential higher towards 134 area, 138.2 projection of this correction here. It gives energy to that. That's how you should read it. RSI got rejected here at the 40 threshold, and it's now back in a positive sentiment, and is pointing to higher levels. Euro sterling. I think it's in correction mode. I don't think it will take out the peak here just yet. Strong support down here, and what we can do also here, we can add a horizontal line. I don't think that will be taken out, but if it does, 85.19, then we could see it sliding back lower here. But for now, it's still in a positive sentiment. What we can also do, we can add Fibonacci to that last leg up there, and I know it will be cluttered a little bit. But we see it already corrected almost 61.8 to 86 here. If it takes out the lows from today, then we're looking at 85.66. But the key support here at 85.19. Dollar yen continuing lower, 142.20. Support being tested at the moment, could bounce a bit. But as we can see here on the weekly chart, we are on the the road is paved down to 140.25, the strong support area here, negative sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating lower levels. But we could see a short-term bounce up to around 145 before next leg lower. It's not a given, but that could occur. Euro-yen could try to again take out 164.20 resistance here. If it does, well, then a push above 165 could be seen. But there are some forces trying to drag it down and trying to drag it higher. And that's what's going on at the moment. So that's why it's quite volatile without really getting anywhere. The Aussie yen bounced strongly, but it didn't get up to the 61.8 retracement here at 91.77, which is a little bit of weakness. But what I will do, I will say, okay, if it takes out 91.35, then we could see a further bounce up to the 93.30 level up in this region here. That is possible. I will well, that is possible. If it takes out the lows, and then we can add another line to that, say, okay, if it takes out the low there at 88.29, well, then lower levels are in the cards. The sterling yen just dancing in this range here. Let me just show you. We have this range here between 189.85 and 186. The breakout will tell us the direction. I think it will be to the downside because you see all moving averages there just declining, pushing it lower. But if it takes out 189.85, well, then we could see a bounce up to around the 61.8 at 191.5. Aussie dollar, massive bounce off the support here just below 60. Very strong bounce on the daily, back above the cloud, back above 786 retracement. Could push higher, but it all depends on what will RSI do. Will be rejected at 60 threshold or not? If it's being rejected, well, then we could see a slide back below the cloud. There's some cloud support here at 62.5. If it can close above, well, then there's potential higher for Aussie dollar towards 65 and 65.5. But then we have the 200 moving average coming down here, kind of putting a lid on the upside potential. So if we start sliding lower here, then below 62.5, well, then downtrend could occur. The dollar Canada, well, that is quite heavy, very close to support here at 138.20. Could push lower, no divergence on the RSI, and also breaking below the support over here on the weekly. We could see it down to a 137.5 level, possibly all the way down to 136.5 in this region here. It's not going to happen in a straight line. Of course, there'll be some corrections on the way. Sterling Canada bouncing, and if it takes out 182.86, well, then we could see a push up to 184 area, just around the 61.8 retracement. Euro Swiss, massive move the past couple of weeks, but seems to have found a floor, and on the weekly we can see where it is in the region here, just above 92, bouncing, and I think we could see a bounce. Let me just remove this one. We could see a bounce up to at least this 38.2 retracement and see what's happening here. We have the 21 coming down, likely to break below the 55 declining, 200 declining, 100 declining, all of declining. So indicating that we could see after a possible bounce, a downtrend to resume, and another test of these support levels here around 92. So that will be key. The dollar Swiss has also sold order heavily, and if we need to look far back to see where we are actually trading, and you can see here we are currently trading around 81.30 level. So we are in this region here from the Swiss incident from January 2015, and that's really massive. We are in this region here. Could it take all the way down to the lows there at 77.80 area? That is of course debatable, but I don't have any supports at the moment otherwise. So for now we are in a bearish trend there, and it just keeps dropping, and Let's see if we can get a bottom reversal pattern. There should be a correction coming in anytime soon. We have the dollar index also pushing lower, currently below 99 and a quarter. And looking at the weekly chart, 98.63. There's some support. It's not the strongest one, so we could see it pushing to 97.45 here in the coming weeks. Negative sentiment on the RSI pointing to lower levels. Gold pushing higher Friday and this morning also a little bit. 138.2 projections, just below 3,250. Didn't reach it completely. Could still do that, but see RSI started building up. So maybe we are in for a correction, a minor correction. But what is also interesting and key to watch is that the RSI on weekly actually broke above its falling trend line. There is divergence now on weekly and daily, but there's been for quite some time. We're still pushing higher, so I think it will continue, and we could see gold pushing towards 3,300 as short term. But be aware there could be a little bit of a correction where I'll try to test the 3,161. Silver bounced to the 61.8 retracement, just around 32.20. We talked about Friday that was in the cards, and it actually did. We are above the cloud and could push to the 786 retracement and 33 and a quarter. Key will be what will then happen with RSI. Will it push above 60 threshold or not, or be rejected, and then we'll have a setback. The copper future dancing around the 38.2 retracement at 454 area. Should have potential to bounce a little bit further, but we can see here it actually got rejected at the upper part of the cloud, and it really needs to take that out. If it takes out the peak today just below 460, well, then I think we could see a stronger bounce towards 483, 486, with a little bit of resistance here where we have the 55 moving average giving a little bit of a hard time just below 470. If copper takes out the lows here from the 10th of April at 431, then I think we'll see another push towards 400. Energy and WTI crude oil has bounced almost 50% of the sell-off to around 63.70, but didn't get all the way up there. But if it takes out that little spike up there, 63.33, then we could see a push up to 65.70. 73 was the 61.8 retracement. Then I think it is it, and then we'll see being rejected and moving lower. But if again it takes out the lows here from the 10th of April, I think then we'll see downtrend to resume. So a key will be here the next couple of days. Was that it, and will it keep bouncing, or will it resume downtrend? Almost similar picture on the Brent crude oil. We actually have something we can look for. The 66.07 little spike up there. If it takes out that, then we are looking at 61.8 retracement just below $67. But if it takes out to the downside, the lows here again at 62, I think you can already say it when we take out the low here at 62.77, then downtrend is likely to resume. Dutch TTF gas, or European nat gas, keeps bouncing. Let's remove this one, just noise. Some resistance here at 36.77 could be touched, but if it takes out the lows here from last week, Friday to be exact, at 32.70, well, then we have a push lower towards a 30 level where there's some support. On yields and US 10-year Treasury yields, let's just adjust this a little bit. So a lot of movement Friday, pushing back, bouncing strongly off the 384, just above 382 support, and massive move here. Didn't close above the cloud just yet, but we got back above 4.4%. We are back above 100 moving average. We're back above the 200, obviously. If it can close higher, and what is also key to watch is that the RSI are already closed above 60 threshold, so we are in a positive sentiment, indicating likely to push higher. We can also see on the weekly, we actually formed a strong bullish engulfing, so that was a sign of potential higher levels. It is not a given yet. RSI on weekly hasn't confirmed that, but we could see a push higher if, excuse me, if it can close above the cloud just above 446. Well, then it is also in terms of the cloud in a positive sentiment. And again, if it takes out 455, the peak here, well, then it has further confirmed bullish trend. The 2-year spiked above the 786 retracement, just above 390, just around 390, setting back a little bit this morning here, just around it. If it takes out the peak there at 395, then expect a push up to above 4%. On the European yields, and let's have a look at that. We have the Euro 10-year yield. Consider this a range between 448 and 472. That is the breakout it needs to do for direction. If it's to the upside, then I expect to push towards 284, sorry, and also previous peaks. If it takes out 248 down here, well, then we are looking at 237 support. On the UK 10-year, well, it is still in a bouncing mode, but it needs to take out 482, the previous peak here. Then it will push towards 5%. That's what we are looking for. Not that I'm happy if that occurs, but if it starts sliding lower and back below the 450, 455, then we could see downtrend to resume. Bitcoin being rejected here at the 55 moving average, that coming down, kind of putting a lid on. We also saw it there, so it will be a little bit of a struggle. There is potential up to 88,800 though, where we have some stronger resistance. So let's see here the next couple of days, or will it actually be rejected so much that it will slide back and continue the bearish trend? That remains to be seen. Ethereum needs to get back above this falling trend line, and especially back above 1755 to establish a bullish trend. All right, that's all for today. A lot to talk about. Expect also a week with a lot of volatility, and have a nice day, and talk to you later.